Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Progress America Unfiltered. I'm Tyler, and I'm here today with Linda and Rhett to talk all things Republican culture wars. We've got some new fodder for you today, and we're going to get into it. So, first things first, what is Tommy Tuberville up to? Linda, can you let me know?
Sure. So Tommy Tuberville, a senator from Alabama, has been doing a months-long blockade of all military personnel promotions. And so what that means is that the Marine Corps does not have a Senate confirmed leader for the first time in 100 years, and that in a matter of weeks, the Army, the Navy, and the Joint Chiefs are going to be in the same position. So he is doing this over a protest over what he calls government-funded abortions in the military, but that is actually a lie. All that this is a policy that would allow troops and their dependents to take some time off and use official travel to go to other states for reproductive care that's not available locally. And that includes not just abortion, but also in vitro fertilization and other methods that people use to try to get pregnant. So he's basically throwing a giant tantrum over a total lie. And he's not alone. Ron DeSantis recently backed Tuberville. He said that if he were to become president, he called this abortion tourism, first of all. Again, total lie. But he said that if he becomes president, that he's going to throw the policy out the window right away. And that he totally backs what Tuberville is doing. But not all the Republicans do. Mitch McConnell claims to be against this. Lindsey Graham, a lot of others say, no, this is hurting the military. We don't support it. But McConnell has also refused to get, Tuberville, who's a member of his caucus, in line and insist that he stop the blockade. So this just shows how much dissent that there is within the Republican Party right now, and how someone like Mitch McConnell does not feel empowered to stand up to far-right extremists because he knows that that's his political base.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way. Thank you for summing that up so succinctly. Rhett, do you have any thoughts on this and what this blockade could mean for the future of our military, as well as the future of, procedural things in the Senate?
Well, I think it really highlights just like the Republican hypocrisy when it comes to like leaving abortion rights or have you up to the states. Like that's kind of what we always hear in like their anti-choice rhetoric, like time and time again, like, oh, send it back to the states, let states decide. And then here they are trying to like limit any sort of like even potential, as Linda mentioned, it's like not even the main reason that people would access care in other states, trying to limit those possibilities too for any sort of like traveling to receive the care that somebody needs. So like really, it's just kind of like the hypocrisy that's outlined again, that it's not about leaving it up to the states. It's always about control. That is always going to be central to the Republican ideology. And so when it comes to just like individual freedom or whatever they like to spout time and time again, we know that this is absolutely not true. And it's just another kind of camouflage attack on abortion and reproductive health care.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, especially the hypocrisy point. I also wanted to point out, as I was reading about this earlier to prepare for the episode, they talked about how like Tuberville's home state, which I believe is like Alabama, like so many residents from Alabama are in the military. So the people who would be directly impacted by his stalwarting and by his like fun political theater are his own residents. Like I think Alabama makes up the most representative state for people who are in the military, especially like lower ranking people in the military. So it's pretty shocking to see that he would kind of directly attack his own people to make a stand in this kind of one man culture war thing. But again, the important thing to note is that news outlets, especially on the right, are not reporting on this at all. They're not talking about this and what this means and why he's doing it and the ways that it's going to impact their own viewers. So it's pretty disappointing to see. But before we move on, Linda, do you have any more thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that shows that this could really be an under the radar major issue going into the 2024 elections. It's true, this hasn't been getting a lot of news coverage. People interviewed in Alabama mostly said that they hadn't heard about it, but military families are the exception. They're really being impacted by this. It's leaving their futures uncertain. You don't know, if you're not sure if a promotion is going to go through, where you're going to be living, what your family's life is going to be like a few months from now. And it's even, many people are saying that this is discouraging them from joining the military. And so this is a powerful voting bloc that is rightfully really angry about this. And I think that we're going to see a lot more, especially if it's not resolved soon, of military families just taking out their anger at the Republican Party.
Absolutely. And one last note on this before I forget. I think it's important to understand that as we talk about this and as we message this, we need to make sure as progressives that we are saying this is Tuberville's fault. This is not Democrats' fault for, refusing to change a bill that provides necessary health care and reproductive care for people who are enlisted in the military. That's not the problem here. It is Tuberville's one-man culture war. That's the problem. And so we need to make sure that we don't let the narrative, especially as it gets to the right, swing towards, well, if Democrats would just take this off, or if, we could have a bipartisan. No, there is nothing bipartisan about this. This is one man's war. And we also need to see people from the right sticking up for this, because it is in fact impacting them much more than it's impacting people on the left. So with that said, we have another fun example of Republican stalwarting that I want to hear from RHETT all about.
Absolutely, Tyler. And so, with the National Defense Authorization Act, I started really paying attention to it recently because one of the organizations I work with is called Bullpack, Better Organizing to Win Legalization. And we were advocating for the ending of cannabis to make it so people couldn't get a security clearance. And that was part of the conversation here. So really, this has been something that I've been following closely in terms of what the individual freedoms are that are associated with something as massive as the National Defense Authorization Act. And of course, because it wouldn't be a Republican moment without also attacking trans healthcare, right? So they attacked abortion and reproductive rights. Now they're also going to move on over and say, hey, let's attack trans healthcare, trans care as well. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how Representative Matt Rosendale, a Republican from Montana, would want to bar military health insurance companies and the Department of Defense for providing the coverage of transgender, gender-affirming related surgeries, as well as hormone therapy to people in the military. So this is something that kind of, I would say, builds off of the Trump kind of anti-trans attacks on people serving in the military, where Trump barred transgender people from serving in the military. This is just kind of more of kind of the Republican kind of ideology, the same thread, saying that, they don't value the extent to which people go to risk their lives in service to this country, the freedoms that everybody sacrifices as individuals to serve and protect and defend the United States of America. Instead, they're more concerned about what's going on in the privacy of their own healthcare and the privacy of them between themselves, their doctors, their families. It's just really kind of an upsetting thread to notice. But I think kind of as progressives, what we can all take away from this is not the party of individual freedom, the Republican Party. This is the party where they're trying to limit the access that people have to care that they need, to care that they deserve, no matter who you are. If you're somebody that serves this country in a very kind of self-sacrificing capacity, or if you're anybody in this country. So it's a really kind of scary moment, but the Republican Party is making themselves known. Yet again.
Yet again, yeah, absolutely. I think it's really disappointing to see people, especially people who, like you said, are putting themselves on the line, are being self-sacrificing, have given up a lot of their own personal freedoms for this country, being used as political pawns in nothing more than theater. And there's really no reason for it. And that's the through line that I think we're going to see throughout all of these. And we need to continue paying attention and calling it for what it is, instead of trying to debate the specifics. The fact is, none of these things are based in any reality. There's no reason to be doing this other than to try to score political points from the most extreme and right-wing members of your party. Linda, do you have any thoughts on this and the other ways that Republicans are trying to, exploit our military members?
Yeah, this just really goes to show the main purpose of the Republican Party at this point is to take people's freedom away in the service of their culture wars, and that military members are just one of the most vulnerable to this because they're serving our country. So the government has some level of control over them, and Republicans just really want to exploit that. And I think we can also see a through line from how they're using our military and their culture wars to how Republicans, a lot of them lately, have just really been championing Putin and Russia because they love the anti-gay policies, and saying terrible things about Ukraine, calling the Jewish president Zelensky a Nazi, right? These are people who are fighting for their freedom as well. And that's just something that the Republicans can't stand.
Absolutely. And one thing that we can't stand at Progress America Unfiltered is people using policy for their disgusting ends and as a means to, continue to oppress and further subjugate people. So that being said, as these right-wing legislators and politicians continue to promote policies like these, it's our duty, as well as the duty of people watching this, to call them out for what they are, tell people not to support them. If you live in Alabama, call up Tommy Tuberville and tell him to stop being a jerk. And if you notice any other legislators that agree with him or put forth similar policies, let's call them out and say that we're not going to stand for this, because it's really nothing more than, headline jacking and culture war making. But that doesn't mean we have to sit by and let it happen. On that note, thank you for joining us today, Linda and Rhett. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time at Progress America Unfiltered. Bye.